What is up guys, Media Review Mike here, and today I wanted to do a short video to discuss the new pre-release version of the long-awaited, much-anticipated Plants vs Zombies 3. After a false start that we don't talk about, we got a taste of what the game would be like back in September of 2021, and it was significantly better than what we had been given previously, which in all fairness wasn't a very high bar to meet.
What the freak?
But now that the preview is back with more content available, I'm here to give a more developed opinion. I've played through all 50 available levels, taking notes along the way, and I can say with 100% certainty that the game is still not very good. When PopCap released this image back in September, I got quite excited. The art direction looked so much better than it did in the first build, and then the pre-release came out and I played it, and I was thoroughly underwhelmed. My biggest issues with the build was the live system, pacing of the levels, and the absence of a seed bank. It did fix some things, like the game was now back in landscape and it made sunflowers, a plant instead of a system, but it was still exceedingly flawed. When PopCap pulled the pre-release from the Play Store, I thought, okay, they'll come back soon and fix the issues people have, but as far as I can tell, nothing in this third build has changed compared to the second. There's more content than in the previous build, but none of the features previously added have been changed whatsoever, and if they have, they're minor enough changes for me to have missed them entirely. Now, dear viewer, I'm about to do a lot of complaining, so I want to preface it by saying that I do very much respect PopCap for listening to the fans and recognizing that they'd made a bad product. However, just because they listened and took on criticism doesn't mean they're exempt from further criticism. Quite frankly, it's only impressive that they listen to the fans because of the number of companies that just wouldn't. I will now read to you the notes that I wrote down whilst playing through the game. The lack of an ability to choose which plants you want to bring into battle is a terrible creative decision and strips the player from the ability to try different strategies and be creative. There's zero sense of progression. New plant unlocks are few and far between, and while there's usually a new gimmick introduced every few levels, hazards, new zombies, etc., there's no sense of freshness when entering a new stage. Compare this to Plants vs Zombies 1, where every level you were given a new plant, which opened up a world of possibilities and strategies. Even PvZ 2, which didn't have level-by-level unlocks, gave you a sense of accomplishment by showing you the levels and progression, reaching closer and closer to a new plant or a minigame stage. Speaking of, there are no minigame stages, which makes the gameplay feel tedious. PvZ 1 had a minigame every 5th level and a conveyor belt level every 10th level. PvZ 2 had frequent challenge levels, too frequent I would argue, but at least they were there. PvZ 3 has 0, although I recognize that this might change in the final product. I actually like the fact that you only get one lawnmower. It means you can't cheese levels by saving all 5 mowers for the final wave, i.e. the hardest stage of the level, and win instantly. The live system, however, is terrible and restricts the player's ability to try alternative strategies. In 50 levels, I game overed twice, once because I tried a strategy that the level didn't want me to use, and the other because I underestimated the difficulty. After failing these levels, I beat them the very next try with ease, having a better understanding of the level. Punishing the player for trying different strategies isn't good game design. It's very obviously done so that they can get you to spend coins to buy new lives, which will be much more malicious once microtransactions are added. The new zombies aren't particularly interesting. The wheel zombie is basically a nerfed Zomboni, and the bowling zombie is basically a nerfed catapult zombie, although the landscaper zombie from the teaser trailer does look quite cool. The hazards like the water shifting and the lava rain were minor inconveniences at best and completely unnoticeable at worst. I'm not saying they need to be buffed necessarily, I just think that they need to be more interesting, or that there should be better penalties than just, oh, your plant's moved, or oh, you can't plant in this tile for like 30 seconds, no. The coins, at least in the pre-release, serve zero function as far as I can tell. Although I do like that when you beat a level, gravestones show up on every tile that a zombie died on. That's a neat little feature. The power-ups were somewhat handy, although I only ever felt inclined to use the cherry bomb, and I only used it 3 or 4 times in 50 levels. Frankly, the cherry bomb, chili, and jalapeno should just be plants that you can place with sun and not power-ups. Although I do like the grape shot, and it acts as a good trade-off for the lack of lawnmowers. The day/mission system is highly uninspired. I ended up just saving all the tickets and using them all at once. The dialogue was dull and uninspired, but it was cool to see Patrice, Crazy Dave's niece, in a game when she was previously only in the comics, which, yes, I have read. The only rewards you get from the missions are coins and lives, neither of which I was expending. I like that different levels have different layouts for the lawn. In a better game, this would be utilized to allow the player to make their own decisions as to how they'd approach each level and what plants they'd use, but not here. I find that the levels are generally too short. They're extremely fast-paced, but not in a good way. The original game managed to balance difficulty without needing to be obnoxiously fast. All it does is make it more difficult to get plants out early, which is more annoying than it is fun. And the speed up button makes the game move way too quickly, so it's basically not even worth using. The early levels are way too easy. I wasn't challenged until about 45 levels in, meaning I wasn't engaged with the game until the last few levels. Those are the notes I wrote down for the gameplay. Now I'll go over my thoughts on the art direction. Plants look good, nicely animated and lively, but I'm just not at all on board with the new zombies design. They just don't look good. I can't quite put my finger on what I don't like about them, but they just look too goofy. The music is also good, although not as memorable or iconic as the previous games, including the Garden Warfare soundtracks. This note is really nitpicky, but I wish we spent more time in the backyard. It's by far the best environment. This is an issue I have with Plants vs. Zombies 2 as well, but I don't like it when the levels are all over the place. It feels weird and jarring going from a campsite to a volcano on a dime. The splash texts are flaccid and depressing. This is the font you use as a placeholder, not in the final product.
But Mike, this isn't the final product. Shut the f up.
Also, I thoroughly miss the thudding sound effect that plays. You know, this sound. The fact that Sun is no longer acquired in collections of 25 is a really weird change and feels like it was only implemented to make the game more accessible to small children. So those are my thoughts laid out. To summarize, I think the game has some good ideas here and there, but it's just been executed poorly. Honestly, I don't think the PopCap will ever be able to make a worthy successor to the original Plants vs. Zombies. Thankfully for us, the fans have been working on projects that seek to do exactly that. Plants vs. Zombies Eclipse, I genuinely have no idea how to pronounce it. PvZ Road Trip and PvZ Universe are all projects I highly recommend any fan of the franchise check out. Eclipse takes PvZ 2 and removes all the microtransactions and makes everything unlockable through progression. Its sister title, Grind 1000, turns PvZ into a gacha game, although I'm not particularly fond of that genre. However, if you are, I'm sure you'll enjoy it too. Road Trip and Universe are both still in production, but look very promising. Road Trip is a recreation of the now defunct PvZ Adventures, an old Facebook game that came out not long before Plants vs. Zombies 2. PvZ Universe is the project I'm most excited for, as it takes all the content from PvZ 2 and the Chinese version of PvZ 2 and puts them all together, also removing microtransactions, and will even have an English translation come the full release. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Plants vs. Zombies 3 as it stands. Again, all of this is subject to change, but I'd be very surprised if what we get is much different to how it is now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment with your thoughts. This is Media Review Mike, signing out.